Let's do an example using arrays in Java. So this is what we're going to solve, this challenge. We're going to write a Java program to ask the user how many grades they have. Then we're going to use a for loop, to prompt them for that many grades. So if they enter 5, we'll ask for 5 grades. We're going to store those grades in an array one by one. We're going to use a get int and range method with proper input validation to make sure that the user enters a grade between 0 and 100. And after the grades are entered, we're going to sort the array low to high, and then we use a for each loop to display each grade along with a letter grade for each, and we're going to use a method to calculate that. So we've seen these examples before. I think we had a homework assignment around these, some of this logic, but we're going to do it, instead of doing one grade at a time, we're going to use an array, and then we're going to get some experience using that. And then once we're done, we're going to display the average and the corresponding letter value, and we'll use a method to do that as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and start. So we're going to do this in VS Code. I've already got a folder open, so let's go ahead and add. We're going to call this GradeArray.java, and we'll have public class GradeArray, and then we'll need give it a second for Java to catch up for our IntelliSense. Okay, there's our main method. Now we've got a couple of steps here that we want to do. We need to prompt the user how many grades they have. Then we need a for loop and an array. So we're going to need a scanner. We're going to need this get in and range. So let's go ahead and do this in steps. So first thing is let's get the scanner. Put that in. We've done this a bunch of times. We use IntelliSense to get the import. Okay, so we're good. Let's go ahead and close that. We'll just put that in at the end. Okay, so now we need to prompt the user for how many grades to get. We also need a get int and range. So the number we're going to prompt them for is an integer. So let's go ahead and write that get int and range. Now we've written this before in other examples. So if you've already written that, you could probably just cut and paste it in here. We're going to write it the same way. But the get int and range is going to take four methods, four arguments rather, four parameters. It's going to take a scanner. It's going to take a string, which is the prompt that we want to use to prompt them for what to enter. It's going to take an integer min value and an integer max value. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, and it's highlighted in red because I have to return something. It says return type for the method is missing. It's because I haven't coded it yet. Okay, we'll get to that. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to do a while true loop, because we're going to stay in this method until the user complies with what I asked them to do. While true, and then we're going to issue the prompt. So this tells the user what we want them to enter. We're going to read that in. We're going to read it as a string equals scanner.next line. Okay, so now it's read in as a string. So now we need to try to convert it to a numeric value, an integer value, and we do that using the parseInt method. And that parseInt will throw an error if they've entered invalid numeric input, invalid integer input. So we're going to wrap that in a try block. And we saw this in previous week when we did input validation. So we've seen this before, so this should be familiar. We're going to say int value equals integer dot parseInt, and then we're going to parse the input. And then if that works, then we need to test the value. But if it doesn't work, so let's just say if that works, we would return value. Now that's not finished because we do need to test the minimum and maximum values. But let's go ahead and code the catch. It's going to be an exception called E, and we're going to catch them all, and we're going to say it's actually we want to catch the specific one, number format exception. Okay, and if we catch that, then we're going to say system.out.println. Please enter, and we'll just say that is not a valid integer. Okay, and then that's done. Okay, all right. So that's looking good. Okay, let's go ahead and put in the let's go ahead and put in the catch the rest of the validation. We've made an error here um, on our method definition. We forgot to put in this is a static method, it's an int. So okay, so we forgot that. Okay, but it's there now. Okay, so now here on we need to test for the range check, so we can here do if value. So if at this point in the program at line 16, we know that whatever the user entered is a valid integer because the parse has worked. Now we just need to check to make sure it's greater than the minimum and less than the maximum. If value greater than equal to min and value less than equal to max, then we want to return the value. Otherwise, we want to say please enter an integer between. Let's do a printf here so we can do interpolation. Please enter an integer between, and so we just want to we'll do a replacement code there, %d, %d, because those are integers, so we can just use the percent digit. And then we can add min and max as the parameters. So then we can get a little interpolation there. Let's go ahead, we'll put a period and we'll put a new line after that. Okay. All right, so that's our get in and range, so that we can use this method to prompt the user to enter any valid integer. So let's try it up here. Let's go back to our main, and we're going to say number of grades equals get int and range, and it's going to pass the scanner, and the prompt will be new line. How many grades do you have to enter? And then let's say we'll want a minimum of 1. And let's just do a maximum of 20 just for this. So, okay. Now let's go ahead and run that because we're not done, but we've typed a lot of code and we can test this get in and range to make sure that it works. So let's go ahead and run that. We can see how many grades you have to enter. If I enter an invalid numeric value, it says that's not a valid integer. If I enter something that's really big, it says you need to enter between 1 and 0. If I enter 0 or -1, okay, well, that was positive 1, so that worked. But if I enter a -1, it's not going to work. Okay, 5. Okay, so we know that our get in and range is working. So we don't need to test that anymore. So it'll work, whenever we need it, we'll be able to use it. We don't have to keep testing. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish our code here. So now that we know the number of grades we want, we can do a for loop for int I equals 0. Whoops, well, before we do the for loop, let's define the grades array. So integer array grades equals new integer array of number grades. Okay. Now we have a new integer array. Oops, I'm not spelling that correctly. Okay, let me fix that. Okay, we're trying to define this array. It's going to integer grades equals new integer array number of grades. Okay, there we go. Okay, we just typed that wrong. So okay, so now that works. So now we have an array, and it is the length of the array is whatever we entered in the previous prompt. So if we entered 5, then we have an array of 5. The indices are going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, of course, because the indices start at 0. So now let's do the for loop. So we're going to for loop starting at 0 because whatever I read here, I want to put right into the array. So I'm going to do my for loop is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want 5 grades, I don't want to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I want to put it into the index of the array, and I want my counter to just be used as the index. So I'm going to say int I equals 0. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to say I is less than grades.length Okay, and then it's going to be I plus plus. Okay, so now I have a for loop that will go to the number of, that's the same number of elements as in the array grades. So now I can prompt. I'm just going to prompt, I'm going to put it right into the array. So I'm going to say grades dot, or grades at I equals get int in range. And the prompt is going to be um, new line, please enter a grade. And the minimum grade is 0, and the maximum grade is 100. Okay. So when that's done, I'll have all 5 grades. And so I know that works because we've tested get in and range. Let's go ahead and run that and see what it says. So if we say I have 3 grades to enter grade, I don't need to test get in and range because I know it works because I've already tested it once. So let's just say 100, 85, 76.3. That's not a valid integer, 76. Okay, so that's working. Okay, so now we know that we've got our get in range, we've defined our array, we've collected the grades. Now I want to use a for each loop. Let's go back and look at our assignment. For each loop, after the grades are entered, sort the array high or low to high and use a for each loop to display each grade along with the letter grade for each grade. Okay, so we'll use a method to calculate the grade. And then at the end, display the average and the corresponding letter value. Okay, so first we want to do is sort the grade. So let's do a little test there, right? So if we just say system.out.println, we can just print out the grades array. Okay, so if we just run that, then what we're going to get is we're just going to get kind of a simple printout. Let's say I have 5 grades, 85, 30, 23, 90, 105. Okay, oops. We did not get the correct grades. So that's the, we need to actually print that out using the toString method. We want to use the toString method here to print. So we can, if we just print the grade, see what we got here was we just get this gibberish number. This is just the internal representation of the array itself. It's just it's a memory address. So, but we can use the array wrapper class here to do a print. And that looks like, if I'm remembering, array.toString. And we give it the name of the array. I think that's what it is. And then arrays, that's arrays, not array. And then arrays requires, does that require an input? Yeah, so it requires an import here, okay, which got added for us automatically. So now if we print that out, let's run that and see what that does. How many grades do you have to enter? 100, 54, 23, 76, 85, 86. Okay, so there's our array printed, okay? So we want to sort that. So let's go ahead and sort this. We have to use the arrays.sort, and we give it grades. Okay, so now if we run this again, now our arrays should be sorted. 100, 56, 1, 87, 45. Oops, I made a bunch of mistakes there. Let's try that again. I have 5 grades. Enter a grade, 100, 34, 67, 1, 23. Now it's sorted, 123. Okay, so it's sorted properly because we used the sort. This system.out.println here, this is just for us to, that's just us, doing some debugging and checking as we go. So the array is now sorted. Now we can use a for each to print out the, to print on each grade. So let's do system.out.println. We'll format this up a little bit. /n/n. We'll put 2 new lines. Grade you entered. Okay. And then we'll do a for loop. We're going to do a for each loop here. So the for each loop, instead of being a traditional for loop like we have here on line 9, we're going to say for each integer grade in grades. Okay, so this is the special for loop notation. So in this case, each time the for loop runs, the value of grade is going to be assigned grades at 0, grades at 1, grades at 2, etc. We don't know which grade we're printing. We just know that we'll get every one through the loop. system.out.printf, grade of the grade has a letter value of, and then we'll put the letter grade in here, and we'll put a new line, and then our replacement values here is going to be grade, because that's what we're getting through each iteration. And then the other one we need is we'll need the get letter grade. So let's put the get letter grade. So we'll call that method. Okay. Now get letter grade is going to return a string. We put a string replacement value here in our printf. So, but we haven't written this yet, so we need to go ahead and implement that. Public static string get letter grade. It takes one value with an integer, which is a grade. Okay. This is simple if. We've written this before. If grade greater than or equal to 90, return A. Else if grade greater than or equal to 80, then return a B. Else if grade greater than or equal to 70. I could do some cut and paste here and might save myself a minute, but this works. If grade is greater than or equal to 60, then we get a D. Else turn F. Okay. Greater than or equal to 60. Okay, that should work. So now we get letter grade. We come up here. We don't have the red squiggles. They're gone. So now let's run this and see what we get. Let's just enter 67, 34, 23, 1, 100. Oops. Oh, man. I've totally messed this up. All right, let's try again. I'm not paying attention when I'm running here. So we have 5 grades. Enter grade 23, 67, 100, 80, 95, 87. Okay. 23, so they're in order, ascending numeric. 23 is an F, there's a D, a B, 2 A's. Okay, great. So now we need to calculate the average and then print the grade letter for the average. Okay, so I can do that by writing 2 additional methods. So I'm going to say here, I'm just going to do a system.out. Well, let's just do this. Let's just say int average grade equals get average of the grades of the array. Okay, so now we're going to write a method called get average. Okay, I'm going to put it here. Public static, it's going to be an int get average. It's going to take an integer array as a okay, and then what it's going to do is it's going to actually just return the get sum of the grades divided by grades.length. Okay, now this is going to return an integer because when I divide, I'm going to get an integer. Since get sum is going to be an integer, grades.length is an integer, so I'm going to get an integer back. Typically, you would probably want the average to be a numeric value, but I'm just going to round it to the nearest integer because that just makes it easy. So now I can do the get sum. Public static int get sum, and it takes an integer array of grades. And we'll use a for each here. So for int grade in grades. And this will say total plus equals grade. And then we'll return, after the for each loop is done, we'll return total. Now, I didn't find total, so I need to do that before the for loop starts. And total equals 0. Okay. All right, so this should work. So that we get the average, and then we can do a printf for that. printf, and that's going to look like, let's do a new line there. The average is, and that'll be the average, which is a letter value of, and then the string, and then a new line. And then our replacement values are going to be average grade, and then the get letter grade of get average of grades. Okay, so we can stack those methods on top of each other. That's printf. Okay, let's run that and see if it works. How many grades do you have to enter? 5. Let's see, 95, 67, 87, 90, 78. Okay, 83, we could calculate that to make sure it has the right average, but that looks about right. Yeah, we got, let's see, we got something extra there. Something extra in our printout, which we can find. And we got, yeah, but it's looking good. Okay. We got an extra square bracket here because on line 18, I just made a typo. So the square bracket that's coming here at the bottom of our output is because I accidentally typed that in the printf. Okay. All right, but I think that does it. So let's run it again just one more time just to make sure. How many grades do you have to enter? Let's do 6. See, I made a 99, and then I made a 90, then I made a 65, and then a 78, then an 82, and then another 90. Okay, all right, that meets our assignment. So in this example, we saw a couple of new skills. One is we used an array, so we declared an array of integers right here on line 8. We declared it to be the size of based on what the value that the user told us. They told us they had 5 grades, 10 grades, whatever. So that's what we used. We used this get in and range method that we used to do input validation on the string on the integer data to make sure that we had valid integer input, that it was between the minimum and the maximum. We wrote the get letter grade method that returns the letter grade. We did an average and a sum method here to take an array of integers and get the sum and get the average. And then we put all that together in our main in a couple of methods here. Okay, all right. So I hope that was helpful. This example will be posted in Canvas along with this video.